Supergirl comes out tomorrow and is the latest film in the DCU, but how did this one turn out? Let's talk about that. When an unexpected and ruthless adversary strikes too close to home, Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, reluctantly joins forces with an unlikely companion on an epic interstellar journey of vengeance and justice. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel. I am Nick, and today we're going to be discussing Supergirl and seeing how did this movie turn out. I was able to see this a couple days early from an early screening at my theater, so without further ado, let's just get right into the review. So the first thing I have to mention is just how natural Milly Alcock feels in this role right here. Her casting truly is perfect, as she is bringing the perfect energy for this character. She has that like kind of punk rock edge to this character and bringing all of that to it, and also going through that trauma from her past, because they do paint Supergirl as this kind of like PTSD and with her past on Krypton, and then she is heavily into drinking as she is coping with a lot of loneliness and grief from the destruction of Krypton and everything. I think that side of the character is actually pretty well explored here, and I really like what Milly Alcock was able to bring to that side. She's able to play the emotion on either part of it, whether she's trying to like do a bunch of quips to get herself out of a situation or into one, or those more serious moments where she's getting vulnerable with this character and everything. So I thought her performance truly was great, and I'm very excited to see where she goes with this character more into the DCU, because genuinely, with how they got David Cornsweet as Superman and then Milly Alcock here for Supergirl, the casting has been 10 out of 10 perfect on both of those characters, but Milly Alcock did fantastic, and seriously, the hate that she is getting online is so ridiculous, and it needs to stop. She was amazing here. You people do not know what you're talking about. Now, paired with her is this child named Ruthye, who's on a revenge tour after her family is killed by our main villain in the beginning of the film, and I do actually like this Ruthye character. I think she is a good sidekick to go with Supergirl, and fun to watch her on this journey, because Ruthye is on this whole revenge arc where she wants to avenge her family and just go out and kill Krem, who is our main villain, and I like the dynamics that brings with her and Supergirl, where Ruthye is like, I want to kill him, this is my mission to kill Krem, but Supergirl is kind of there like, are you sure you want to do this? And this is an arc that we have seen before of, you don't want to kill him because you're gonna be haunted the rest of your life. We saw that in Big Hero 6, and like, it is something that, an arc that hasn't been unexplored, you know, like, it has been done, and here, I think it is done serviceably, and even though it is a bit predictable and sometimes frustrating that she doesn't get a lot to do, because Ruthye has this distinct fighting style that we know she'll have, but we don't really get to see that in full force, where it feels like she's kind of there with Supergirl the whole time without a lot to do on her own, which I wish we could have gotten at least one scene of her doing something. But as a whole, I don't think she's a bad sidekick at all. But the whole thing with her arc being kind of familiar, and even though it does a decent job there, that is a complaint I do kind of have with the movie as a whole, where it doesn't feel like it's doing too much different from other superhero movies, and it can make for a very predictable story for a good chunk of the runtime. At the beginning of the film, it is super on the nose with what the thematics around the character of Supergirl are going to be, of finding your home and finding your people. It is extremely on the nose with how it handles that. Then it kind of abandons that message for a little bit and goes on the revenge thing, and then we start immediately going full force on these themes again, where you kind of just know where this movie is going to end, especially when you know who's involved and stuff, and like, you just know exactly where this movie's gonna go, and you know exactly where the landing zone is for this thing.
Superhero landing!
Which it isn't bad at all. I do think it is well written in a lot of areas, and I think it does the character of Supergirl justice when we get to that end. It's just that it is a familiar story that we have seen many times. And related to our villain of Krem that Ruthye is really trying to kill, I do think he is a bit of a weak villain. I think the performance from Matthias Schoenaerts is great, but I do think as a whole, Krem is a pretty D-tier villain. And it really sounds like I am on a hating mission on this movie right now, but I promise you I am not. Those are really just my big complaints with the film, and there's one more thing I'll say before I get into the positive stuff, but there are definitely some flaws in this one. But let's get into Lobo, who is one of the most anticipated parts of this film. Jason Momoa being in here, and perfectly cast as Lobo, by the way. He was great. I do think the use of Lobo is a little bit unjustified, where he's very fun to watch in the film, and he is absolutely cool when he's on screen. It's just, he just shows up, he does a couple things, does his thing, and is done. It's like, did he really need to be in here? Despite it being super cool that we saw Lobo and got an insane performance out of Jason Momoa as this character, it's just kind of like, is the movie different if he's not in here, right? Like, it's just one of those situations where, yes, we love seeing him and I'm excited to see more of Jason Momoa as Lobo. Did he need to be here, you know? But now on the more positive side with this thing, I do think the vibe for this film is pretty strong. It can sometimes feel like Craig Gillespie, who the director of this movie is doing a James Gunn impersonation to make it fit with Superman and other James Gunn projects. But I do think he does a pretty good job as a whole here, and he's able to draw some really great action moments to make a fun superhero flick out of this film. I thought the action all around was actually pretty good. I know it's getting some complaints for being pretty boring. I'm on the side that I actually did enjoy the action. There's especially this one scene early on a bus where they have all these gadgets and they're doing teleportation stuff, all one shot as well, and I think that is actually a pretty well executed action moment. I also really like how they go about when Supergirl has her powers and how she doesn't have them at some points, and when she is able to get them. I think that is a good exploration of how the character's powers really work and when she's going to be able to use them for pretty much how she's going to work in this universe as a whole. And I think it's pretty well done, especially the moment where we fully see her powers and what they look like. I think that scene is really well done. And I also like when she doesn't have them, how she's still able to fight and like what she's able to do, like the acrobatics and everything. So I do think they have a nice balance here of when she doesn't have them and when she does, and her fighting style and how that kind of changes when she has them and when she doesn't. I like seeing that dynamic. There are also some great one-shot action moments throughout the film as well that do bring some nice style in here. It does also break away at the end, in my opinion, from being another schlocky final battle too, and like the third act being just a CGI fest, which it kind of is, but I do think the action is very cool at the end, especially some Lobo drops in there, and just how they decide to resolve like the villain plot lines and stuff. I think it's a pretty fun finale, even though sometimes the visuals in this movie do not look very good at all. I do think the green screens can be pretty rough for a good chunk of this one, but there are some moments where the film actually does look really good. Now, the one thing I will say with this one is don't go into this movie expecting another Superman level thing, because these are two different movies. Superman was a world establishing film with all of these different characters. Supergirl is kind of like a Captain America First Avenger, where it's an early phase, just character action flick, smaller scale. That's kind of what Supergirl is, and that's what I like about it. It's just a fun action romp. That's all it wants to be, and it does its thing. Go in, it's a little predictable, it's a little bit familiar with all that stuff, and some characters are just kind of in here for the sake of it. There are flaws in here, but it is a fun one, and I do think for a fun superhero flick, I think Supergirl goes in and it gets the job done. Now, before I get into my final thoughts, thank you for making it this far into the video. I appreciate it. And if you made it this far, make sure to like this one and subscribe to my channel. We are 2 subs away from 100. So please, if you could subscribe, I would greatly appreciate that. Supergirl is simply a fun time. While the story is predictable and has a villain problem, the action is fun to watch, and we have an extremely fun lead in Supergirl herself. Milly Alcock is great, and I'm very excited to see where she goes with the character more in the DCU. And Jason Momoa's Lobo, while a bit unnecessary, was a fun addition as well. My final score for this one is going to be a 3.5 out of 5. It's definitely one that will depend on just how much fun you have, because if you go into this one hating it, I kind of understand it is very predictable and just formulaic, but if you had a fun time with it like I did, then that is great. I think that is what is best for this film. Just a fun movie, very fun characters, some great performances, and Krypto the Superdog does bring in a lot of nice emotion in here as well, with the plot really revolving around him. So I do think this is a good time, and I cannot wait for more of the character. It's definitely better than that 80s Supergirl movie, I will say that. So thank you all for watching this video. I very much appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe. It says that on the screen right here. Got my badges as well that I give to select movies when they earn them. I'm gonna stop rambling. See y'all, everybody.